I never knew what it was like to have real parents. I mean, sure, I had Marcus and Sophia Chen, the people who brought me into this world. But from day one, they were more like strangers who'd show up once in a blue moon with fancy gifts and awkward small talk. My real family? That was Grandpa Harold and Grandma May. They took me in when I was just a baby, no questions asked. Their brownstone and park slope became my whole world. Grandpa Harold was a retired structural engineer. He'd helped build some of the tallest buildings in New York, but to me, he was the guy who could fix anything. After he retired, he opened up a furniture store called Wong's Wooden Wonders. I loved hanging out there after school, watching him turn plain old wood into beautiful tables and chairs. Grandma May was always there, in her own quiet way. She'd been a teacher before retiring, and boy, did it show. Every night, she'd read me a story before bed. As I got older, those bedtime stories turned into history lessons or math puzzles. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, though. My parents would show up sometimes, usually around holidays or my birthday. They always brought expensive presents, toys I'd never asked for, clothes that were too fancy for everyday wear. I remember my 8th birthday clearly. They showed up late, just as Grandma was bringing out the cake she'd baked. My mom waltzed in with a giant stuffed unicorn. "Happy birthday, sweetie," she said, air kissing my cheek. "Sorry we're late." Traffic was terrible. My dad barely looked up from his phone. "Happy birthday, Emily," he muttered. They stayed for maybe an hour, asking surface-level questions about school and my friends. Then, like always, they had to rush off. "We've got a big case tomorrow," my dad explained, already halfway out the door. That was my childhood. A mix of love and absence, of handmade furniture and unopened expensive toys. I didn't know it then, but those early years with my grandparents were shaping me in ways I'd only understand much later. I'd always been a good student, but in elementary school, I really hit my stride. It wasn't just about the grades, though. I had friends, I was involved in sports, and I even started winning some academic competitions. Grandma and Grandpa were there for all of it, cheering me on every step of the way. I remember this one science fair in 4th grade. I'd spent weeks working on a project about renewable energy, building this tiny wind turbine that could power a light bulb. When I presented it to the class, Grandmommy was right there in the front row, beaming with pride. "That's my girl," she whispered as I finished my presentation. Later, she told me, "Emily, you've got a bright mind. You could change the world someday." Our house became a shrine to my achievements. My artwork covered the fridge, my trophies lined the mantel, and a wall in the living room was dedicated to my school photos and report cards. It was embarrassing sometimes, but deep down, I loved it. It made me feel seen, you know? Meanwhile, my parents couldn't be bothered to show up for their own kids' elementary school graduation. I got a check instead, a big one, sure. But what good is money when all you want is for your parents to see you walk across that stage? In 6th grade, I won the citywide essay contest. I was over the moon. The award ceremony was a big deal, with the mayor and everything. I remember standing backstage, peeking out at the audience, searching for my parents' faces. They weren't there. When I got home that night, clutching my certificate, there was a on the answering machine. "Congratulations, Emily," my mom's voice said, sounding distracted. "We're so proud. We're sorry we couldn't make it, but we're working on a huge case. We'll take you out to celebrate soon, okay?" That soon never came. Each time they missed something important, it was like a little crack in my heart. I tried to tell myself it didn't matter, that I had Grandma and Grandpa, but there was always this ache, this question. Why wasn't I enough for them? Then came my 12th birthday. Out of the blue, Marcus and Sophia showed up at our door. They had gifts, expensive ones, a smartphone that probably cost more than our monthly groceries, clothes from designers I'd only seen in magazines. "We're taking you out for the day," my dad announced, like it was no big deal, like they hadn't missed a dozen other birthdays before this one. We went to Manhattan. We did all the touristy things, Empire State Building, fancy lunch, even a Broadway show. It should have been amazing, right? But the whole time, I felt like I was with strangers. At lunch, my mom asked, "So, how are your grades?" "They're good," I said. "I got all A's last semester." "Excellent," my dad nodded. "Any extracurriculars?" "Yeah, I'm still playing soccer." "Soccer?" My mom raised an eyebrow. "That's interesting." And that was it. They didn't ask what I liked about soccer or if I had any cool projects. They didn't ask about my friends or my dreams or anything that really mattered. By the time they dropped me back at Grandma and Grandpa's, I was exhausted. Not just physically, but emotionally. As soon as the door closed behind me, I felt this wave of relief wash over me. I couldn't sleep that night. Around midnight, I decided to go downstairs for a glass of water, hoping it might help me drift off. As I padded down the stairs, I heard voices coming from Grandpa's study. Angry voices. I froze, my heart suddenly racing. I knew I shouldn't eavesdrop, but curiosity got the better of me. "You can't keep doing this, Sophia." That was Grandpa, and he sounded furious. I'd never heard him like that before. "We just need a little more time," my mother's voice replied, a pleading edge to it that I'd never heard before. "This investment is different, I swear." "That's what you said about the last one, and the one before that," Grandpa shot back. "You're gambling away your daughter's future." "Oh, please!" My father's voice cut in, cold and dismissive. "We never wanted to be parents in the first place. Did you forget that we were considering termination when Sophia got pregnant? Our careers." "Your careers?" Grandpa's voice was low and dangerous now. "Is that all you care about? What about your daughter?" "Daughter?" My mother laughed, a bitter sound that made me flinch. "You mean the anchor that's been holding me back? Do you know how many opportunities I've missed because of her? Partner track, high-profile cases, all gone because I'm a mother who can't commit fully to the job." I felt like I couldn't breathe. Each word was another blow, shattering the already fragile image I had of my parents. "I've had enough," Grandpa said, his voice heavy with disappointment. "We took Emily in because we thought it would give you time to grow up, to become responsible parents. But you've only gotten worse. The borrowing, the failed investments, the neglect. It stops now." "What are you saying, Dad?" My mother's voice had an edge of panic to it now. "I'm saying no more money, no more bailing you out. And I think you both need to seek help. This gambling addiction." "We don't have a gambling problem," my father shouted. "Throwing money at every get-rich-quick scheme that comes your way? That's gambling, Marcus. And you're doing it with your daughter's future." There was a moment of tense silence, then a flurry of movement. I barely had time to duck into the shadows as my parents stormed out of the study and headed for the front door. Somehow, I made it back to my room. I curled up in bed, pulling the covers over my head as if they could shield me from the truth I'd just learned. The weeks after I overheard that conversation were rough. I felt hollow, like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left just a shell. Worthless, unwanted. Those words echoed in my head constantly. But Grandma and Grandpa? They were my lifeline. They didn't know what I'd heard, but they must have sensed something was wrong. They went out of their way to show me love, to remind me that I mattered. "Emily," Grandpa said one day, catching me staring blankly at my homework. "You know you're the best thing that ever happened to us, right?" I looked up, surprised. "Really?" He nodded, his eyes crinkling with his smile. "Really? You make us proud every day, kiddo." Slowly, with their love and support, I started to feel like myself again. I threw myself into school, determined to prove my worth. To myself, if no one else. I joined the computer club and discovered I had a knack for programming. Creating something out of nothing, solving puzzles with code, it gave me a sense of control I desperately needed. My parents? They became even more distant, if that was possible. Birthdays and holidays came and went with barely a phone call, but I told myself I didn't care. I had Grandma and Grandpa. They were at every school event, every awards ceremony. They were my real parents in every way that mattered. Then came that day, just after my 15th birthday. I was at home, working on a coding project, when the phone rang. It was the hospital. There had been an accident. The next few days were a blur. Hospital corridors, the beeping of machines, the smell of disinfectant, Grandma and Grandpa, looking so small and fragile in their hospital beds. I sat between them, holding their hands, praying to a God I wasn't sure I believed in anymore. But it wasn't enough. They slipped away, first Grandma, then Grandpa, just hours apart. It was like the world had ended. They were gone, and I was alone. The funeral was surreal. I stood there, numb, as people I barely knew came up to offer condolences. And then, like ghosts from another life, my parents appeared. They looked different. Older, maybe. Or just uncomfortable. They stood awkwardly by my side, as the caskets were lowered into the ground. My mother put her arm around me, and I was too shocked to pull away. As people started to leave, my father cleared his throat. "Emily," he said, his voice formal, like he was addressing a stranger. "You'll be coming to live with us now in Manhattan. We've set up a room for you in our apartment. You'll start at a new school next week." I wanted to scream, to tell them I wasn't going anywhere with them. But I was 15, alone, and had nowhere else to go. So I nodded, feeling like I was agreeing to my own execution. That night, I packed up my life into a few boxes. As I zipped up my last bag, something caught my eye. It was a photo tucked into the corner of my mirror. Me, Grandma, and Grandpa at my school science fair last year. We were all grinning, Grandpa's arm around my shoulders, Grandma holding my project like it was made of gold. I carefully took the photo and slipped it into my pocket, a piece of home to take with me into the unknown. The elevator dinged, and I stepped into my new life. The room they'd set up for me was nice, I suppose. A queen-sized bed with crisp white sheets, a desk with a brand new laptop. But it felt sterile, impersonal. There was nothing of me in it. The next few weeks were a blur of awkward attempts at family life. My parents tried. I'll give them that. They bought me new clothes, asked about my day over dinner, when they were home for dinner, even tried to help me with my homework once or twice. But it was all surface level. They didn't know how to be parents, and I didn't know how to be their daughter. We were like actors in a play, all of us forgetting our lines. School was its own kind of hell. Midway through the year, I was the new kid, trying to navigate unfamiliar hallways and social circles. The kids here were different from my friends in Brooklyn. They wore designer clothes, talked about summer homes in the Hamptons, discussed internships at their parents' firms. I felt like an alien among them. As the weeks turned into months, even Marcus and Sophia's half-hearted attempts at parenting faded away. More and more often, I found myself alone in the apartment. They'd leave notes, working late, order dinner, or gala tonight, don't wait up. I started spending most of my time in my room, tinkering with my laptop, teaching myself more advanced programming. It was the only thing that made me feel like myself anymore. One Saturday night, about 6 months after I'd moved in, I was sitting at my desk, deep into coding a small game I was working on. I heard the front door open, and my parents' voices, loud and slightly slurred. "Oh, shoot!" my mother giggled. "We forgot about Emily's parent-teacher conference." "Was that today?" my father asked. "Oh, well, I'm sure it's fine. You know how these things are, just a formality." I sat there, my hands frozen over the keyboard, as their voices faded down the hallway to their bedroom. They'd forgotten. Again. And they didn't even care. In that moment, the full weight of my new reality crashed down on me. This wasn't temporary. This was my life now. These distracted, distant people were my parents. This cold, empty apartment was my home. As my 18th birthday approached, I found myself at a crossroads. The past 3 years in my parents' Manhattan apartment had been, well, let's just say they weren't the best years of my life. But I had survived. More than that, I had plans. College had always been part of those plans. Grandpa and Grandma had drilled it into me from an early age. Education was the key to a better future. So, one evening at dinner, a rare occasion when both my parents were actually home, I broached the subject. "So, I'd been looking at colleges," I said, pushing my salad around my plate. I think I want to major in computer science. My mother looked up from her phone, surprise flickering across her face. Oh? That's nice, dear. My father cleared his throat. About that, Emily. We need to talk about your future plans. The thing is, we don't have money set aside for your college education. The knot in my stomach tightened. What? But I thought, we think it might be best if you look for a job instead. My mother chimed in. You're 18 now. It's time you started contributing to the household expenses. I stared at them, speechless. These were the same people who had bought me a $1,000 phone for my 16th birthday. The same people who had a cleaning service, come twice a week, and took lavish vacations every few months. But your jobs, I thought. Our jobs pay for our lifestyle, Emily, my father said, his tone clipped. We can't be expected to support you forever. The conversation ended there, with me retreating to my room, trying to process what had just happened. My dreams of college seemed to be crumbling around me. On the morning of my 18th birthday, I woke up to an empty apartment and a sticky note on the fridge. Happy birthday. Working late. Don't wait up. No cake, no presents, not even a card. I was about to crawl back into bed and write the day off when my phone rang. Hello, is this Emily Chan? A warm, grandfatherly voice asked. Yes, this is she. Happy birthday, Emily. This is Mr. Goldstein, your grandfather's lawyer. I was wondering if we could meet today. There are some legal matters we need to discuss now that you're of age. Mr. Goldstein's office was cozy, filled with old leather-bound books and the smell of pipe tobacco. He greeted me with a kind smile that immediately put me at ease. Emily, he said, once we were settled, I have something for you. A gift, you could say, from your grandfather. He pulled out a thick folder and placed it on the desk between us. Your grandfather, Harold Wong, set up a trust fund for you before he passed away. He was very specific about the terms. The fund was to remain a secret until your 18th birthday, to ensure the money would be used for your benefit and your benefit alone. This money is enough to cover your college education and provide a comfortable start to your adult life. He pushed the folder towards me. Inside were bank statements, legal documents, and a letter addressed to me in Grandpa's familiar handwriting. With shaking hands, I opened it. My dearest Emily, it began. If you're reading this, it means I'm no longer with you. This fund is my gift to you, a key to unlock your future. Use it wisely, my dear. Chase your dreams, get that education, and make a life that makes you happy. You've always made us proud, and I know you'll continue to do so. All my love, Grandpa. Tears streamed down my face as I read and reread the letter. Even now, years after they were gone, my grandparents were still taking care of me, still believing in me. There's more, Mr. Goldstein said gently. Your grandfather left instructions for the funds to be released directly to you. Your parents have no access or control over this money. I returned to the apartment that evening, my mind still reeling from the meeting with Mr. Goldstein. I was so caught up in my thoughts that I almost didn't notice my parents sitting in the living room waiting for me. Emily, my mother said, her voice unnaturally bright. How was your day? I hesitated, then decided to be honest. After all, maybe this could be a turning point for us. It was surprising. I met with Grandpa's lawyer. He told me about a trust fund Grandpa set up for me. The change in their expressions was instantaneous. My father's eyes widened, and my mother leaned forward, suddenly very interested. My mother stood up, smiling in a way that didn't reach her eyes. Oh, sweetie, that's wonderful. You know, your father and I have been worried about some financial matters. This could really help us out. I blinked, not quite believing what I was hearing. Help you out? But it's for my education. Emily, my father said, his voice taking on that patronizing tone I knew so well. We're your parents. We know what's best. We have debts to pay, retirement to think about. You can always take out student loans like everyone else. I felt like I was in a bizarre dream. No, I said, surprised at how steady my voice sounded. This money is for my education. It's what Grandpa wanted. My mother's fake smile vanished. Don't be selfish, Emily. After everything we've done for you, everything you've done for me, the words burst out of me, years of pent-up frustration finally breaking free. I heard you, you know, on my 12th birthday. I heard everything. They both froze, looking at me in shock. You never wanted me, I continued, my voice shaking. You resented me. You blamed me for holding back your careers. Well, guess what? Grandma and Grandpa were my real parents. And this money? It's their final gift to me, not to you. My father's face contorted with anger. Now you listen here, young lady. We are your parents, and you will do as we say. Give us that money, or you can get out of this house right now. I looked at them both, these strangers who were supposed to be my parents. In that moment, I saw them clearly for the first time. The selfishness, the greed, the complete lack of love or concern for me. And I made my choice. Fine, I said, my voice calm. I'll leave. I pulled out my suitcase and started packing, my hands shaking, but my resolve firm. I could hear them following me, their voices a mix of threats and attempts at emotional manipulation. As I wheeled my suitcase towards the front door, my father made one last attempt. Emily, be reasonable. We're your family. I stopped and looked at him. No, I said quietly, you're not. You never were. And with that, I walked out of the apartment, ignoring their shouts behind me. In the elevator, as the reality of what I'd just done hit me, I felt a strange mix of terror and exhilaration. I pulled out my phone and called my friend Jess. Hey, I said when she answered. Can I crash at your place tonight? It's a long story. The weeks following my dramatic exit from my parents' apartment were a whirlwind. Mr. Goldstein was a godsend, helping me navigate the complex world of financial independence. We set up a budget, found a small but cozy studio apartment in a safe neighborhood, and made sure all the legal I's were dotted and T's crossed. With a stable living situation secured, I turned my focus to college applications. I poured my heart and soul into every essay, showcasing not just my academic achievements, but also the personal growth I'd experienced. My coding projects, which had been my solace during those difficult years, now became my strength. When the acceptance letter from the University of California's computer science program arrived, I cried tears of joy. It was more than just a college acceptance. It was validation of everything I'd been through, everything I'd fought for. The day before I was set to leave for California, I made one last visit to Greenwood Cemetery in Brooklyn. Standing before my grandparents' graves, I felt a mix of emotions wash over me. Hey, Grandma, Grandpa, I said softly, placing a small bouquet of flowers between their headstones. I'm going to college, just like you always wanted for me. I traced their names with my fingers, feeling a lump form in my throat. Thank you for everything, for loving me, for believing in me, for giving me this chance even when you're gone. I promise I'll make the most of it. I'll make you proud. As I stood there, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the nearby trees. It felt like a caress, like my grandparents were saying goodbye and good luck all at once. I threw myself into my studies with a passion that surprised even me. The programming concepts I'd taught myself in my lonely room in Manhattan now served as a strong foundation for more advanced topics. I made friends who shared my interests, joined coding clubs, and even started mentoring younger students who were struggling with their coursework. As graduation approached, I received multiple job offers from tech companies, but it was the offer from a leading Silicon Valley firm that caught my eye. The position promised challenging work, opportunities for growth, and a chance to make a real impact in the tech world. On graduation day, as I stood in my cap and gown, diploma in hand, I felt a bittersweet pain. I wished more than anything that my grandparents could be there to see me, but as I looked out at the sea of faces, I saw Mr. Goldstein in the crowd, beaming with pride. He had become a sort of surrogate grandfather over the years, always there with advice and support when I needed it. As I looked towards the future, my new job, my new life in Silicon Valley, I felt a sense of excitement and purpose. The road hadn't been easy, but I had made it, and I knew, deep in my heart, that wherever I went from here, I would carry the love and lessons of my grandparents with me.